Welcome to our channel History of Coins, where we explore the hidden gems of numismatics. In today's video, we're diving into the fascinating world of rare wheat pennies. These classic coins hold an incredible history, and some are worth millions. So today, we are gonna uncover the rarest varieties, their values. So make sure to watch the complete video and find out if you have one of these. Now let's continue our today's video. Top 1 today, we're going to explore a true classic, a coin that has fascinated collectors for generations, the 1935 wheat penny from the United States of America. This little copper coin might seem ordinary at first glance, but certain examples are worth an unbelievable amount of money. So sit back, listen carefully, and enjoy this journey into coin history, because at the end I'll reveal just how much this penny can be worth, and the number will surprise you. The wheat penny, officially called the Lincoln cent, was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. It became one of the most iconic coins in American history, and for decades it carried the beloved wheat ears design on the reverse side. The 1935 wheat penny sits right in the heart of the series, minted during the Great Depression, when the United States was still struggling with economic hardship. Because of that era's significance, owning a coin from 1935 is like holding a piece of history from a very challenging yet defining period in America's story. Now, let's talk about the design. On the front of the 1935 wheat penny, we see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. His initials can be seen under the shoulder of Lincoln. On the reverse, the classic wheat ears frame the words 1 cent and United States of America, with the motto E pluribus unum on top. It's a simple but timeless design, loved by collectors all over the world. But here's where things get truly exciting. While millions of 1935 wheat pennies were struck at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, not all coins are equal. Most of these pennies circulated heavily, collecting scratches, wear, and discoloration. In average condition, they're worth just a few cents. However, a small number of these coins were either preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition or contain rare minting errors that make them extremely valuable. Errors are what truly make the 1935 wheat penny stand out in the world of coin collecting. Some of the most sought-after examples include double-die obverse coins, where parts of the lettering like "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" appear doubled because of a misalignment during the minting process. Collectors love these varieties because they are immediately visible and dramatic. Another exciting type of error involves off-center strikes, where the design of the penny is shifted away from the center, leaving a blank crescent on the coin. Depending on how far off the strike is, these errors can fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars. There are also rare cases where a 1935 wheat penny was struck on the wrong planchet, such as a dime planchet, creating a one-of-a-kind piece that collectors would pay a fortune to own. Beyond errors, condition is everything. A 1935 wheat penny graded at the very top of the scale, known as mint state 67 or 68, is virtually flawless. These are the coins that serious collectors chase after. While an average circulated 1935 penny might only be worth pennies, one in superb gem condition with blazing red luster can command extraordinary sums at auction. Think about it. Most of these coins have been handled thousands of times, tossed into change jars, or sat in drawers for decades. Finding one that looks almost brand new after nearly 90 years is like discovering a time capsule. That rarity is exactly what drives collectors wild and pushes prices higher and higher. For coin lovers, the appeal of the 1935 wheat penny goes far beyond its monetary value. It's about holding a link to America's past, from the Great Depression era, when every cent counted and families were scraping by with very little. It's about the artistry of the wheat ears design, which represented prosperity and growth. And of course, it's about the thrill of finding a rare treasure hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered. Now, let's get to the part you've all been waiting for, the value. While most 1935 wheat pennies remain common and worth just a small amount, the rarest examples, either with dramatic errors or preserved in nearly flawless condition, can sell for astonishing prices at auctions. In fact, one of the finest known examples of the 1935 wheat penny has been valued as high as $86,000. That's right. $86,000 for a single penny that could be sitting unnoticed in a collection, a coin jar, or even tucked away in an old box of keepsakes. Imagine the excitement of discovering that kind of hidden treasure in your own home. The next time you come across a 1935 wheat penny, don't dismiss it as just another old coin. Look closely for errors, examine its condition, and you just might be holding a piece of history worth a fortune. Top 2. We are diving into a fascinating piece of American history, the 1939 wheat penny. At first glance, this coin might look like just another old cent, but what lies beneath its copper surface is a story of history, rarity, and incredible collector demand. If you're a coin lover, make sure to listen very carefully, because this little cent could be worth far more than you can imagine. The Wheat Penny series, officially known as the Lincoln cent, was introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 1939, the coin had already been in circulation for 3 decades and was one of the most familiar coins in every American's pocket. The year 1939 is especially interesting because it falls just before America entered World War II. The nation was recovering from the Great Depression and bracing itself for the changes the war would bring. Owning a coin from this moment in history is like holding a small reminder of how resilient America was during uncertain times. The design of the 1939 wheat penny is timeless. On the obverse side, you'll find the profile of Abraham Lincoln, created by Victor David Brenner. Above Lincoln's head are the words, "In God We Trust," with liberty on the left side and the date 1939 to the right. The reverse features the classic twin wheat stalks encircling 1 cent and United States of America, with the motto, E Pluribus Unum, arching along the top. These wheat ears symbolize growth and prosperity, perfectly suited to a coin that circulated during a time when hope and endurance were needed most. Now, while millions of wheat pennies were produced in 1939 at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, not all of them are equal. Most of these coins saw heavy circulation, passed from hand to hand in grocery stores, gas stations, and diners. Those common, well-worn coins may only be worth a few cents today. But the story changes dramatically when we talk about coins that have survived in pristine condition or coins with rare minting errors. Let's talk about those errors first, because this is where things get exciting for collectors. One of the most famous error types is the doubled die. Some 1939 wheat pennies show doubling on the obverse, especially in the inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust. These dramatic varieties stand out immediately and can raise a penny's value by thousands of dollars. Another sought-after error is an off-center strike, where part of the design is missing because the coin was struck incorrectly. Depending on how far off-center the strike is, these pieces can fetch incredible sums. There are also rarer mistakes such as repunched mint marks, where the mint mark, either a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco, was stamped more than once, leaving a shadow-like effect. Collectors love these varieties because each one tells the story of human imperfection in the minting process, turning what was supposed to be an error into a prized collectible. Condition is the next factor that makes all the difference. A 1939 wheat penny that has been heavily circulated might be interesting, but won't bring in serious money. On the other hand, one graded in mint state with full red luster can attract intense bidding wars. Collectors are constantly chasing those coins that look as if they just left the mint, untouched by time or circulation. The fewer marks, scratches, or discolorations a coin has, the higher its grade and the higher its potential value. Imagine finding a coin like this in a collection passed down from a grandparent or tucked away in an old box. Most people would assume it's only worth face value, but coin collectors know better. A flawless 1939 wheat penny with a dramatic error could turn out to be a hidden treasure worth a small fortune. The appeal of the 1939 wheat penny is not only about its value, but also about the story it carries. This was a coin that circulated in the pockets of Americans just before the world would change forever with World War II. It is a coin that connected ordinary people across a nation, whether they were buying bread, paying bus fare, or saving coins in jars for the tough days ahead. Collectors treasure these coins because they are more than metal. They are history you can hold in your hand. And now for the part you have been waiting for, the value. While most 1939 wheat pennies are only worth a few cents, the rarest examples, Those in stunning condition or with dramatic mint errors can bring in staggering amounts of money. In fact, one of the most remarkable 1939 wheat pennies ever discovered has been valued at as much as $82,000. That's right, $82,000 for a single 1-cent coin. It's incredible to think about, but that's the magic of coin collecting. What looks like an ordinary penny could be a life-changing discovery if you know what to look for. So, coin lovers, the next time you come across a 1939 wheat penny, don't pass it by. Examine it closely, check for errors, and look at its condition. You might just be holding a hidden gem worth far more than its face value. Top 3, we're going to explore one of the most fascinating and collectible coins from the World War II era, the 1942 wheat penny. At first glance, it might look like just another old cent from your change jar. But if you pay close attention, you'll see why this particular penny has captured the attention of coin enthusiasts for decades. So sit tight, listen carefully, and enjoy this story, because the 1942 wheat penny might just surprise you with how valuable it can be. The wheat penny series, officially called the Lincoln cent, had already been in circulation for more than 30 years by 1942. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the series became one of the most recognized coins in American history. The year 1942 is especially significant because the United States was in the midst of dramatic changes. Just 1 year later, America would be fully engaged in World War II, and the nation's economy and resources were redirected to support the war effort. On the obverse of the 1942 wheat penny, you'll find the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. Above his head are the words, "In God We Trust," with liberty on the left and the date, 1942, on the right. The reverse features the simple yet iconic design of 2 wheat stalks encircling 1 cent and United States of America, with the motto, E Pluribus Unum, on top. These wheat ears represented hope, prosperity, and strength, fitting symbols for a nation entering one of the most challenging times in history. Now, when it comes to mintage, millions of 1942 wheat pennies were struck at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. But here's the key. Most of them were heavily circulated. They passed through countless hands in grocery stores, on bus rides, and even in the pockets of soldiers preparing for deployment. Because of this, finding a coin from 1942 in pristine, uncirculated condition is extremely rare, and that rarity is what makes these coins so attractive to collectors. But condition is not the only factor. Errors are where the real excitement begins. Among 1942 wheat pennies, there are a few striking varieties that collectors dream of finding. One of the most popular is the double die error, where parts of the design, especially the inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust, appear doubled. These doubled dies are bold, noticeable, and can dramatically raise the coin's value. Another fascinating type of error is the off-center strike. When the planchet, or blank coin, is not lined up correctly in the press, the design ends up shifted, leaving part of the coin blank. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin becomes. There are also examples of repunched mint marks, especially with the Denver D and San Francisco S, where the mint mark was stamped more than once, creating a shadow-like effect. Each of these varieties tells a unique story of the minting process and adds to the allure of collecting. The 1942 wheat penny also sits at an interesting point in U.S. coin history. Just 1 year later, in 1943, the U.S. Mint stopped using copper for pennies and switched to steel coated with zinc in order to conserve copper for wartime needs. This makes the 1942 wheat penny the last full year of the traditional copper cents before the dramatic change to steel. That fact alone increases its historical significance and desirability among collectors. Now imagine this. Most people look at an old penny and see 1 cent. But if that penny is from 1942, in gem quality condition with its full red copper color still shining, or if it carries a rare mint error, it can sell for a life-changing sum. Coins like this are not just pocket change. They are pieces of history, artifacts of resilience, and treasures hiding in plain sight. For coin enthusiasts, the thrill lies not only in the value but also in the discovery. Holding a 1942 wheat penny means holding a link to the past, a reminder of families making sacrifices on the home front, soldiers preparing for battle, and a nation united in one of its greatest challenges. That connection to history is what makes these coins so meaningful and collectible. And now, the part you've all been waiting for, the value. While the majority of 1942 wheat pennies are worth only a few cents in average condition, the rarest examples, those with stunning preservation or dramatic mint errors, can fetch astonishing prices. In fact, one of the finest known examples of a 1942 wheat penny has been valued at as much as $79,000. Yes, you heard that right, $79,000 for a single penny. It's proof that sometimes the smallest coins hold the biggest surprises. So, the next time you come across a wheat penny from 1942, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look, check its condition, and see if it carries one of those rare errors. You might be holding a true treasure without even realizing it. Top 4, we are taking a closer look at a coin that might be hiding in plain sight, the 1950 wheat penny from the United States of America. This humble 1-cent coin might seem ordinary, but it holds stories of post-war America, rare minting surprises, and collector value that could reach truly jaw-dropping levels. So stay tuned, listen carefully, and enjoy this fascinating journey, because the 1950 wheat penny has more to it than meets the eye. The Lincoln wheat penny, first minted in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln, had already been a household staple for over 40 years by 1950. America had just come out of the turmoil of World War II, and the 1950s were ushering in a period of economic growth, suburban expansion, and new hope for many families. This coin circulated during the early years of that prosperity, jingling in the pockets of Americans buying groceries, filling up their cars, and even saving for their new homes. On the obverse side, the 1950 wheat penny carries Victor David Brenner's classic portrait of President Lincoln. Above his head sits the motto, "In God We Trust," with liberty positioned to the left and the date, 1950, to the right. Depending on where it was minted, you may find no mint mark for Philadelphia, a D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco. On the reverse side, the famous wheat ears frame the bold lettering 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum at the top. These wheat stalks had become symbolic of resilience and prosperity, a perfect representation of mid-century America's optimism. Now, let's talk rarity. While millions of these coins were produced across the 3 mints, not all 1950 wheat pennies are equal. Most were used daily and quickly wore down, leaving scratches, discoloration, and marks from circulation. Those average examples are still collectible, but carry only modest value. The real excitement begins when we look at coins in exceptional condition or those struck with rare errors. One of the most famous and valuable errors is the doubled die variety. On some 1950 wheat pennies, you can see clear doubling in the inscriptions like "Liberty" or "In God We Trust." These dramatic double dies are instantly noticeable and highly prized. Another fascinating variety includes repunched mint marks, especially from the Denver and San Francisco mints. Here, the mint mark was struck more than once, leaving a shadow effect that collectors love. Off-center strikes are another exciting possibility, where the design is shifted and part of the coin remains blank. Each of these minting mistakes creates a one-of-a-kind collectible that commands a premium price. But condition plays an equally important role. Coins that have survived in mint state with their original red luster intact are highly desirable. A coin graded at mint state 67 or higher is considered a true gem. These coins look nearly untouched by time, with crisp details and brilliant shine. Collectors go wild for these flawless examples because they are so rare. Most coins from 1950 simply did not survive in such condition. The 1950 wheat penny also carries historical importance because it was minted right before the coinage of the 1950s began shifting into new territory. Just 9 years later, in 1959, the wheat reverse design would be replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse, marking the end of an era. This makes the 1950 wheat penny part of the final chapter of the beloved wheat design, which adds an extra layer of appeal for serious collectors. Imagine this. You come across a jar of old pennies passed down from a relative or tucked away in an attic. Most people would dismiss them as loose change, but hidden among them could be a pristine 1950 wheat penny with an error variety that collectors would pay thousands for. The thrill of that discovery, the sense of holding history in your hand, is what makes coin collecting such a fascinating and rewarding hobby. And now, let's get to the moment you've been waiting for, the value. While the majority of 1950 wheat pennies are worth only a few cents to a few dollars depending on condition, the rarest examples, those with dramatic errors or preserved in stunning, near-perfect condition, have sold for incredible sums. In fact, one of the most exceptional 1950 wheat pennies has been valued at as much as $77,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $77,000 for a single penny. It's almost unbelievable, but that's the magic of coin collecting. Sometimes the smallest coins hide the greatest treasures. So, the next time you find a 1950 wheat penny in a collection, a coin roll, or even in change, take a careful look. Examine the mint mark, check for doubling, study its condition, and don't overlook it. You just might be holding a coin worth far more than 1 cent. Top 5, we're going to explore a very special coin, the 1958 wheat penny from the United States of America. At first glance, this coin may look like an ordinary cent, but for those who know its history and rarity, it holds secrets that can make it one of the most exciting discoveries in coin collecting. So stay tuned, listen carefully, and enjoy this story, because the 1958 wheat penny could be hiding incredible value. The wheat penny, officially called the Lincoln cent, began its journey in 1909, designed by Victor David Brenner to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It became one of the longest-running and most beloved coins in U.S. history. By 1958, the wheat penny had already circulated for nearly half a century and was about to mark the end of an era. That's right, 1958 was the final year the famous wheat ears appeared on the reverse. In 1959, the reverse design was replaced with the Lincoln Memorial, forever closing the chapter on the classic wheat design. This historical significance alone makes the 1958 wheat penny a key coin that collectors want to own. On the obverse, you'll find the enduring profile of Abraham Lincoln with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," above, "Liberty," to the left, and the year, 1958, to the right. On the reverse side, the iconic two wheat stalks frame, 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum at the top. While the design looks simple, it carries deep meaning. The wheat ears represent prosperity, growth, and resilience, symbols that resonated deeply with Americans during the mid-20th century. Now, let's talk about rarity. Millions of wheat pennies were minted in 1958 at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, so the majority of these coins are common. But here's where things get interesting. Not all coins were struck equally. Errors, varieties, and conditions separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. The most famous 1958 rarity is the doubled die obverse variety. On this coin, the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" show dramatic doubling. These double dies are among the most sought-after wheat penny varieties ever produced, and they can sell for jaw-dropping amounts. For collectors, finding a true double die is like striking gold. Other valuable varieties include repunched mint marks, particularly on the Denver issues, where the D was stamped more than once, leaving a shadow-like image. Off-center strikes also exist, where part of the design is missing due to a misalignment during minting. And of course, there are coins struck on wrong planchets, an error so rare that collectors will pay huge premiums to own them. But beyond errors, condition is everything. The grading scale ranges from well-worn circulated examples all the way to mint-state gems with blazing red copper color. A 1958 wheat penny in mint-state 67 or higher, with full red luster and no noticeable marks, is extremely rare. Most coins from this year saw heavy circulation, which means finding one in pristine condition is like discovering a time capsule from the past. And remember, the 1958 wheat penny holds special appeal because it represents the very last year of the wheat design. That fact makes it a must-have for collectors who want to complete their sets. Coins that close out a design series often carry extra historical weight and collector interest, and the 1958 wheat penny is no exception. For coin lovers, the thrill of the 1958 wheat penny lies not only in its potential value, but also in the story it tells. This was a coin used in everyday life, passing through countless hands during a time of great change in America. Families were moving to the suburbs, television was taking over as the new form of entertainment, and the nation was entering a period of optimism and growth. To hold a 1958 wheat penny is to hold a small piece of that history, Now comes the moment you've been waiting for, the value. While most 1958 wheat pennies are worth just a few cents in average condition, the rarest examples, especially those with dramatic double dyes or preserved in nearly perfect mint state condition, can command incredible sums. In fact, one of the most remarkable 1958 wheat pennies has been valued at as much as $75,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $75,000 for a single 1-cent coin. That's the kind of discovery that makes coin collecting so thrilling. So, if you ever come across a 1958 wheat penny, don't overlook it. Check for errors, study its condition, and remember its place in history as the final year of the wheat series. You never know, you could be holding a hidden treasure. And if you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about rare and valuable coins, make sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you never miss another exciting discovery. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy collecting.